From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I'm Keith Allen, and proudly welcoming you into this For the People weekend edition. I'm still trying to kind of get used to the idea of just being on for one time a week. It's just, it's unique. When you're doing a 2-hour show and you're doing it for years at a time, and then you're just, I'm staying busy. I mean, that's the important thing. I'm working and setting up meetings with other broadcast groups, working with the production company, keeping up with the news. There's always so much news to talk about. I think that's one of the most frustrating things is I have to pent up all of this information, and I can't comment until showtime. And so appreciate you being so patient and listening. And this show is good for, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, bare minimal. Some of you catch it during the week, but whenever you listen, it's definitely worthwhile listening. The Supermoon is being blamed for what's happening and has happened in Boston. You heard about the flooding going on. You heard about the snow. You've heard about the temperatures going down. Here in Florida, temperatures in the 20s, about 45 minutes outside of Tampa, Florida, where we do the broadcast from. 20 degrees at my daughter's house. Seriously, my stepdaughter's car was frozen. She couldn't even open up the car door. 20 degrees. That is super cold. But let's get back to the Supermoon being blamed for the winter storm that tore through the East Coast, causing massive flooding in Boston yesterday. Benjamin Siprel, his name's Benjamin Siprel. He's a meteorologist for NOAA, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. They were telling the Daily Beast that a combination of snow, hurricane-level winds, and cold combined with the recent lunar event meant that the flooding was inevitable. They say it comes down to a case of unfortunate timing. The storm happened to hit during high tide, which is intensified by Monday's supermoon, wreaking havoc on the city and surrounding coastal areas. And according to the Boston Herald, the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon caused tides to soar to 12.1 feet high, while a storm surge of about 3 feet on top of that resulted in the flooding. So leading up to the tide, they said we had hurricane-force winds and 20-foot waves on coast facing the Atlantic. Siprel was telling the Daily Beast there was, 2 to 3 foot surge that got driven into the inner bays, and then a lot of the infrastructure and roads and basements in Nantucket, unfortunately, got a lot of that. And the flooding, they say, is the worst that Boston has seen in 40 years. 40 years, folks. Sub-zero temperatures. Airports obviously closed. It was definitely, they say, one of the highest storm tides on record, says Hayden Frank. He's a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, according to the Boston Herald. And thousands of Boston residents were left without power. That was like insult to injury. And then you had the icy water surge through the streets, which prompted officials to warn residents to stay off the streets. Wow. Bad stuff, folks. It looks like temperatures are going to be warming up for some of the country, which is going to be great. I think temperatures here today will get into the 50s, 30s tonight, and then a gradual warm-up, but definitely consistent days of cold. It's hammered most of the U.S. Thousands of U.S. flights canceled by the winter storm tearing through the East Coast. 46,000 flights scrapped. Well, the number of delayed flights climbed past the 2,000 mark, and this massive storm halted operations at some of the nation's busiest airports, resulting in 4,000 flights canceled on Thursday, with 614 flights scheduled for Friday wiped as delays continue to stack up. So if you're traveling, know people that are traveling for business or just trying to get back from vacation, it's not happening. Hotels making out like bandits. That's for sure. And unfortunately, some cases of some price gouging going on. And unfortunately, that always happens around the country when things like that happen. But make sure if you were gouged, believed you were gouged, make sure you contact not just the Better Business Bureau, but the Attorney General of the state, and they can crack down on the business, maybe even give you a refund. We know Pam Bondi did a great job during the hurricane when hotels and stores were doing that. Hopefully you have an attorney general that is literally for the people, no pun intended, thus the name of this broadcast. But yeah, Pam Bondi, we're very fortunate. She's awesome. She's very strong against those that try to exploit others for their benefit. Talking about exploiting, the big bombshell and the mainstream media salivating over this greatly because of the new book by Michael Wolff called Fire and Fury. Why don't you just sound off about this on my Facebook? Let's talk to Keith Allen is Twitter. We're talking Facebook. Facebook is as follows: For the People Show. You can find us there, and if you can't find us, just simply go to our webpage, forthepeopleshow.com. That's our worldwide home on the internet, and you can click on our Facebook symbol, and then you can weigh in on what you think Michael Wolff is up to. A lot of people are weighing in on this, and there's just a lot of salacious stuff going on. Donald Trump has weighed in on this, of course, and President Trump, ramped up his attacks on Wolff, on his credibility, saying overnight that Michael Wolff, his accounts, is full of lies. So a lot of people like Sean Spicer, former press secretary for a moment at the White House, weighing in on this thing, saying, what percentage of it's true? His credibility has been shaken a lot for a lot of books, kind of stretching things out. Apparently, he didn't keep notes. Apparently, didn't tape anything. This is just all kind of in his mind. So what percentage? Which was a good question asked by Laura Ingraham, and this is what Spicer had to say.
If 10% isn't true, if 20% isn't true, if 30%, what is the reader supposed to guess? What is accurate and what isn't? But I know from what I've seen so far that there is a lot of this, if not, and we've only seen the excerpts, that is definitely a problem.
But
there's a definite problem with it. And, this is designed, in my opinion, not only just to pad the pocketbook of Steve Bannon, because he's there quoting several times in the book, saying salacious stuff that's just not true, just crap that Melania was crying because Donald Trump won. Not happy tears, mind you, wasn't happy tears. It was anguish. It was upset. She didn't want him to be the president of the United States, didn't want him to win. Donald Trump said that he couldn't win. He didn't believe he could win. All of this nonsense in this book. It's called Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House, and supposedly it paints a White House, a President Trump that is not just, well, they're saying medically, he's overweight, he's not doing well, but mentally, something the left has been trying to do for some time, for the past year or so, is challenging his mental aptitude.
And the excerpts come out, show that there are some narratives that sound that they could be interesting. But by and large,
what do you mean by interesting?
That it's like there are certain things that I've read that say that this event happened and that's plausible.
Okay.
But there's a lot of the quotes that I know are attributed to myself and to other people that frankly never happened. And if you read the author's note that he put in the book that I've obtained a copy of, he makes it clear that Michael Wolff, who has a history of fabricating stuff, who is a very questionable past, and a lot of reporters are now kind of digging into this and saying, we've got to question his sourcing here. He admits that he never brought any note. He took notes. He didn't bring a recorder to the thing. Yeah. There is no question that the accuracy of this book is definitely in question. And I know from some of the things that were written that don't pertain to me, definitely didn't happen with respect to the president, the first lady.
Folks, this is going to be like the Bible. This is going to be like the Bible to the mainstream media. CNBC, NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, the fake news network, they're all going to be quoting out of this as if these were truths, because these are the narratives. These are the things that they've been saying all along. And Michael Wolff's not saying anything different, anything real different, okay, than what he's saying in the book. They've been saying, but it's going to confirm, according to them, all the things that they had believed this guy was in the White House. They're going to use this as an authority, as a piece to confirm people's worst fears, that the president's not there. Other people are running it, just like they said with Ronald Reagan, that Nancy Reagan was running things from the stars and consulting astrologers and all this other stuff, but this guy is devoid. And they said all of this stuff. Isn't it familiar, though? You remember when Ronald Reagan was president? This is the same stuff. However, what's really changed is that the media is like times 125, times 150. I mean, they exaggerate this stuff to the max. They exploit it to the max. And this book, in my opinion, for Michael Wolff, for Steve Bannon, who apparently puts the Trump family under the bus. If they were friends, if they considered each other friends, once upon a time friends, or anything like that, that relationship's done. Donald Trump tweeted this out earlier today. I authorize zero access to the White House. Actually turned him down many times for author of phony book. I never spoke to him for a book full of lies, misrepresentations, and sources that don't exist. Look at this guy's past and watch what happens to him and Sloppy Steve. That's his new name for Steve Bannon, Sloppy Steve. He's got a new name for him. Trump's mad. I mean, Trump is a loyalty kind of guy. And if you're really on the same page to win, to make America great, you don't put that kind of crap into a book. This guy is an opportunist. He's going to sell books, and that's what it's all about, padding his pocket. And I hope Steve Bannon makes out well, because his credibility, and by the way, Breitbart News, they're going to want nothing to do with him. After that, they're going to let him go. There's actually conversation right now saying they're going to do just that. And they're mulling it over as we speak. There on Newsmax, says the board of Breitbart News Network LLC considering removing Steve Bannon as chairman. The Wall Street Journal actually reported it. Many of the board members, including Rebecca Mercer. Well, she's the daughter of billionaire financier Robert Mercer. And they're supportive of such a move. Pending legal entanglements with Bannon that might have to get ironed out, but the Journal basically says they're strongly wanting to get rid of this guy. Credibility issue. They're saying this stuff is balderdash. Even the White House said Breitbart should consider axing Bannon. The Mercers distanced themselves from Bannon yesterday, publicly rebuking the now disgraced former chief strategist to President Donald Trump and yanking their financial support. Though Bannon quickly lost his footing, the aftermath of his involvement of a soon-to-be-released book that cast Trump, his family, and tenure in a wholly negative light. In the book, Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House, Bannon called Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russians, check this out, folks, treasonous, and said Ivanka Trump is dumb as a brick. Conservative pundits took their shot at Bannon yesterday. Matt Drudge tweeted about the Bannon-Breitbart fallout. Rush Limbaugh reminded his audience that Bannon was the big leaker while at the White House. And terrific Larry Savlo and Susie Breitbart take Breitbart into the fresh future. Has it really been 10 years since Andrew told me on the Santa Monica Pier he was going to do it?